complex.
Good afternoon. My name is James K. Holder II. Some of you may know me as Sir James II, and I'd like to welcome you back to Not on My Watch. As always, I'd like to ask you to subscribe, like, comment, and share. I also want you to retweet this and repeat this. We have a really big goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers this month. So by the next episode, I'd love for us to get from that 750 mark where we are today to over that 1,000 mark. And once we do that, I'll be able to do just an audio-only podcast and offer some other sort of live features to doing the show. This has been a great experience, and I'm loving all the support and everyone watching and commenting. And the last episode was really successful. So please help me. Please continue to subscribe. Please continue to share. And please continue to watch. If you're watching this, it is Wednesday, April 26, 2017. And what that means is the 97th day of Trump's acid rain. And so with that, everyone, of course, is going to be doing their coverage of 100 days of Trump and like what has been his legacy over the first 100 days of his administration. So I'm going to do a little take on that, and then we'll focus on something a little more important in my view. Let's start with Donald Trump's Twitter. So the other day, of course, as you know it's coming up to that 100-day mark, we hear from Donald Trump. No matter how much I accomplished during this ridiculous standard of the first 100 days, and it has been a lot, including SC, I'm assuming he means the Supreme Court Gorsuch appointment. That's not something to be proud of, but the media will kill. So he's basically, again, bracing for the truth, which is what, if the media decides to hold him accountable, that, you know, he's already got it covered in an excuse. And what I will say is interesting because CNN posted an article recently basically saying that, oh, well, we don't even know that we should hold Trump accountable to having a successful first 100 days. And they go on to discuss all the things that, oh, well, you know, just because he has a bad 100 days doesn't mean he'll be a bad president. But really, I mean, he's tried hard to get some of this stuff going and has failed at the attempts with all three branches of government on his side. So it's kind of unfortunate that we have a media that is not really willing to cover and tell the real story. So I just kind of want to go over some of the highlights of Trump's first 100 days. I believe right now his approval ratings are below 40%, which is the lowest approval rating of any president at this stage in their political career. Anti-Semitic attacks and incidents across the country have risen by 86% since Donald Trump has been president. So kudos to Sean Spicer and also President Steve Bannon and Donald Trump. He has actively and aggressively created tension between once friendly nations of ours, allies, in order to distract from Trump-Russia ties. So it started out with him hanging up on the president of Australia. He started out bad with Mexico. Vicente Fox is a leader of the resistance because he is always in Trump's ASS on Twitter. So if you're not following Vicente Fox, please, he has a last name. Fox is not his last name. Okay, well, follow him. He's the former president of Mexico. And frankly, I knew his name a little bit better than Gary Johnson did, so I don't feel that bad. You've got Canada. Very recently, as of yesterday, he was starting with Canada about trade. You've got North Korea, and also Angela Merkel, when she was at the White House, there was this whole thing about him not shaking her hand. I mean, it's really just been embarrassing. Another feat, he has managed to spend 23 of his first 84 days at Mar-a-Lago, a.k.a. Mar-a-Lago Fuck Yourself, a.k.a. the Southern White House, a.k.a. the Winter White House, which is quite remarkable. You're talking about 23 days out of 84. You know, this is up to and including Easter weekend, where he spent the long 3-day weekend there. It is really unprecedented that this is something that's happening now, and we need to continue to monitor that. And though he hasn't been able to build a wall as he promised, or get the funding for it from Mexico, as he promised. He has managed to use $1 million in taxpayer funds to build a new helipad at his private country club, Mar-a-Lago. So, on top of raising the membership, I was going to say emissions, but that's really what it is, the pay-for-play access to our president and other foreign leaders who he always takes there for their delicious chocolate cake. He, raised the emissions to Mar-a-Lago, fuck yourself, to $200,000 a year from $100,000. You also have now where he's spending so much time there, he's playing so much golf there, it really has become this place to see and be seen. It's a pay-for-play setup where you can have access to our foreign leaders if you're choosing to get married at Mar-a-Lago, or if you're choosing to pay this exorbitant admissions fee and have access to the president. Hey, and also the State Department, run by Rex Tillerson, who apparently didn't want the job, had to take down advertising for Mar-a-Lago. Like, they were promoting this private club that he's using taxpayer money to improve for his own, leisure. It's just really, really egregious. So the thing about it is that the media is determined to focus on anything but Trump-Russia ties. They're determined to focus on anything other than Trump's taxes. There really hasn't been this call from the media again, and there never was a call for the media to release Trump's taxes. And we'll get into why that was allowed to happen. But it really is a situation where we need to. One thing I won't really focus very much on with this cast is Trump-Russia. And the reason why is because I feel like right now you're realizing that a lot of the liberal sources of news that we trust and we like are really using, teasing, taunting with Trump-Russia connections for clickbait. So you've got people who really don't have a story, they really don't have a break, they really don't have a lead on anything, but they keep writing these stories to get our hopes up, and so they're selling you a false hope, especially since we will have to ultimately replace our Congress. We'll have to get back a functioning third branch of government in order to even entertain the idea of an impeachment proceeding, because at this point we've seen that the Senate and the House will go along with anything that Trump requests. Anybody. I mean, anything. There is really no salvation. The only thing that they've walked away from was the ACA repeal, which many would argue is that because it wasn't vindictive enough. So we really have to focus on where we can have an impact. And I'm not saying that if you find Vladimir Putin in Trump Tower with Melania, then maybe let's have a conversation about the media and the Congress actually holding our president accountable to not giving our democracy away and our sovereignty to Vladimir Putin. But until then, I just feel like we need to focus on holding the media accountable and holding our champions accountable, including the DNC. So I want to talk briefly about media's complicity in all of the lies and gaslighting that we've experienced that have kind of gotten us to this point of where we are. And I want to focus on this pattern of deception. And what it ultimately does is that the media, and this has always been the case with the media, like this is not, when I say the media, I'm talking about newspapers, major newspapers, television, of course, and now social media. But at the end of the day, it's always been the same. It's always been the same stories that ultimately continually reinforce those white male dominance narratives that we've talked about. And this is what the system that allows for a blanket ubiquity of white supremacy in America. That's why white power is the structure system in America. So I just kind of want to focus on a few stories that came out this week that the media chose to cover instead of covering Trump, Russia, and taxes on Tax Week. And let's just jump right into it. So yesterday, the BBC, I'm not even going to try to remember what that is, British Broadcasting Corporation, but a UK-based, obviously highly regarded publication, comes out with this headline: Obama criticized for $400,000 Wall Street speech. Now, here's the thing. It's frustrating because why is it that the media sources are requiring this highly skilled, trained, accomplished black man to relegate himself to slave wages? Why is it that we have our hands in this man's pocket? Why are we counting his money? What is it about Barack Obama receiving $400,000 from a speech that was different from Donald Trump receiving up to $1.5 million for a speech to the same people before he was president? And I have to sort of bring Bernie Sanders back into this conversation, because what the double standard and the different set of rules that the media applies to women and people of color means is that white men invariably get a free pass on everything. So there's really no accountability for white men in the media. You can have, someone like a Bill Cosby versus a Bill O'Reilly. As of now, Bill O'Reilly has been fired from Fox News, thank God. But up until then, they're still not really talking about that. They're not really talking about all of the problems associated with what he did in his position. Whereas when it was Bill Cosby, they were happy to trot out all the accusers. They were happy to focus on all those things. And I'm not justifying Bill Cosby's actions. I think it would be good if we could get to a point where he's tried and convicted and we know, for certain, but certainly there's overwhelming evidence to suggest that Bill Cosby is certainly responsible for harassment and, in many cases, rape. So I don't want to excuse anybody's behavior, but I do want to say that the media treats black people very differently than it treats white people in the public eye. It also treats women very differently than it treats people. Let's go back to this speeches. When did this become a problem? The reason why paid speeches became a problem is because Bernie Sanders was hell-bent on not showing you his taxes. When Bernie Sanders ran as the only true trustworthy candidate, the only person who you could rely to not be beholden to foreign ties, ironically, he did so by refusing to release the one set of documents that could prove whether or not he actually had any other interests. And so it's interesting to see now Bernie's mirroring of Trump on many issues. And I'm not saying that those two people are the same, but certainly when it comes to the people who support them and the people who therefore support the media who reports differently on Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, there's a benefit for them to really have a commensalism in terms of what they present out there. And that was really sort of discouraging. We talked about it a little bit on last week's episode, but Bernie Sanders really did create he created this idea that any money received from a corporate interest, regardless of whether it was as a private citizen or not, is inherently dirty money, and now tells the story of corruption in that someone who spoke for Wall Street, just whether they were in office at the time or not, essentially would have made that deal. So basically the accusation is that Barack Obama was making deals with Wall Street while he was president to offer them legislation and things that helped them in exchange for now reaping benefits from Wall Street. And again, we have this really huge Wall Street umbrella, this story. But really, what was ironic is that you had a writer from the Huffington Post writing about this. I'm not even going to put his name out there. I don't want to give anybody any shine. But then it's like you look up Arianna Huffington's speaking fees, and she goes for $100,000 a pop. So the owner of his media organization is happy to go speak for corporate interests. And then we're to believe that the Huffington Post is now presenting unslanted media and not presenting stories that might ultimately lead the election in a way, or lead citizens to vote in a way or act in a way that benefits the same corporate interests that are paying Ariana, I was about to call her Ariana Grande, Ariana Huffington. And I'm not saying anything bad about Ariana Huffington, but I just think it's interesting that the same media that does the same things, you're complicit in all the same actions, yet you're willing to point fingers at Barack Obama and hold him to a completely different standard. Obviously, everyone else who has been in any major public office, Secretary of State, the President, Bill Clinton has received up to $750,000 for a speech. Hillary Clinton, though she did that 3-speech series, her fee cap has really still been only $250,000 per speech. So it's really interesting. Even when they're making less, the media has a problem, and white men in specific have a problem with this woman making money on speeches, with Barack Obama, this black man making money on speeches. And I don't even want to get into, oh, well, he should be able to earn it, or he should. It doesn't matter. The point is, you're creating a new standard. And why is that? Because you want to create a pass. You want to offer a free pass to this white male exclusive club that says Donald Trump can take 23 out of his first 84 days of being the president of the United States, and that's fine because who really knows if the first 100 days of success determine the success of a presidency? This is what CNN said in that article. And so it's kind of like, yes, it comes down to individual writers. Yes, it comes down to individual journalists that we need to hold accountable, but ultimately the media organizations are publishing this stuff. There are editors who see what these ideas are, and they continually promote these same narratives that people of color, women, the poor are less deserving of forgiveness, less deserving of the opportunity to make mistakes, less deserving of wealth, less deserving of grace. And that they must be held to a different standard. So let's just continue on, because I think what we have here is a media that's obsessed with purity, and this is from the left and the right. Democrats specifically are held to a completely different standard, and the purity is ultimately becoming that purity popsicle culture is a repackaging of white supremacy. Again, when you're white, you're displayed as pure already. By default, it's expected that Donald Trump is telling the truth. It's expected that Bernie Sanders is telling the truth about his finances, even though he hasn't released his taxes. And yet someone like a Hillary Clinton must also go the extra mile of releasing her Wall Street transcripts, which is a red herring by Bernie Sanders, even though she's released up to 30 years of her taxes, and you only know about the speeches she gave because she willingly released her taxes. It's remarkable that we have so many people who ran this year who did not release their taxes. I think that's ridiculous, and I think American voters need to do better. Let's talk about Serena Williams. Congratulations to Serena Williams and her fiance on their coming child. They are bringing life into this world, and that is absolutely something to celebrate. And it's unfortunate that the media has decided not to use this as a time to celebrate Serena Williams, but instead to criticize her. Because, of course, black women are deserving of more abuse from the media. So now this is a publication I'm not very familiar with, but at the end of the day, it's really not about the size of the publication. It's about the fact that you're putting these ideas out there and you're validated by a brand. You're validated by some media umbrella, regardless of the advertising streams or whatever. You're getting access to promote these same ideas. And so let's talk about this. 2 articles on Serena Williams this week. 420. We have from New Scientist magazine. I've never heard of this. This is not Popular Science. This is not I have not heard of this magazine before, but sure enough, they had something to say about Serena Williams. The question that they posed was, is Serena Williams' pregnancy making her a better athlete? Now, this is just coming out of the news that she won her last title while she was pregnant. Now, I've never been pregnant, obviously. I know a lot of people who have been pregnant, and it's not a walk in the park. It is not this boost of vitamins to your system. It does not help you. If anything, it makes you tired as hell. Your body is creating a new life, so your body resources are drained. You're sleepy, you're tired. you have to be concerned about your heart rate and different levels that you're promoting. You have to be concerned about your nutrition. You have to eat more. You're obviously going to gain weight. You have morning sickness. You have all these other things that would make you less competitive as an athlete, and still Serena Williams wins. So why is there a question? Now, this article goes into talking about all these theories that are unproven and talks about how they all essentially, the benefits that would make you a better athlete occur in your second or third trimester. And of course, Serena Williams is in her first, or was in her first, when she had that meet. So it's kind of like, what was the point of drawing this question, raising this concern? It's all about that suggestion, right? The suggestion that Barack Obama's deeds are nefarious in speaking to these companies, suggesting that, oh, Serena Williams somehow, after winning, 25 previous titles, or, this is the greatest athlete of our time. This is the greatest athlete alive. And so, bar none, now we're talking about not just greatest tennis player, not just greatest female tennis player, not just greatest black female. No, greatest athlete, most awarded. No one has done what this woman has done. And yet, now she's pregnant. There's this whole desire to take away her last achievement. I think that's remarkable. Yesterday, we had there was another publication. I'll put the name up. I'll put it up. Says Sharapova returns from her doping ban. She brings badly needed star quality to a women's game lacking in big names. So I'm kind of like, one, that's a huge slight at Serena Williams. Two, that's a slight at every other female tennis player. And I'm not a huge tennis fan. I don't follow it. But even I could name off 6 people, other women who play tennis, play the sport, who are exceptional in what they do. So what does this need to have Sharapova, who is a cheater? I mean, she's a cheater. Why is she allowed to play again? That's one question. But there's this grace afforded to Sharapova, right? And then this automatic validation that she might not have beaten Serena Williams even though she was on drugs the whole damn time. Oh, but she's a star. So, she's not good at what she does, and she cheats. We had to ban her ass from the sport. Oh, and she's back now, so let's welcome her back. Let's roll out this red carpet and let's push Serena to the side. No, it's all an attack on black women. It's an attack on, again, saying that Serena Williams is cheating by being pregnant, but Sharapova is the real star that we've missed. I mean, it's crazy. Okay. I want to talk about another woman. And we're kind of speeding along. But you've got an article from, now this is from a Politico writer. And Politico and The Hill and The New York Times, they all employ these assholes who are just incredible misogynists. And most of them are women. Or not most of them, I'm sorry, that was sexist of me. Many of the people putting out these anti-women messages are women. And they're journalists. And so it provides an additional layer of value that the attacks on Hillary Clinton or Chelsea Clinton are coming from some woman, because then it's like, oh well, it can't be sexist because it's coming from a woman, or it can't be racist like that this cop killed this black person and didn't get a trial because the cop who killed him was black, so it's not racist. No, we've talked about this. There's an ability that within intersectionality, a privilege of that allows white women to coalesce to white supremacy and also black men. But as you've seen with Serena Williams, she's a black woman. She really can't escape it. She can be the best in the world and will never get credit. She'll never be celebrated in a way that a star like cheater-ass Sharapova will be. So, hey, kudos. Welcome back. I think Maria is your name. You weren't really missed, but stay off the drugs and let's see how you do. I mean, I don't really have high hopes for what you're going to put out, but we'll see. Getting back to Chelsea Clinton and Politico, we had this writer, Annie Carney, who basically comments, there was this post that Vanity Fair did. Chelsea Clinton was on the cover. They had a magazine and Chelsea Clinton was on the cover, and or Variety, not Vanity Fair. And Chelsea is really pretty in the photo. She's smiling. She's really happy. And it says, this writer from Politico says, why is she so happy? And it's kind of like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. When Hillary Clinton wasn't smiling enough on the trail, they were saying, why she needs to smile more. When Chelsea smiles, it's, oh, well, why is she so damn happy? It's, there's always just this continual misogynistic onslaught, and they've always come after Chelsea. And I don't know what they have against her, but from talking about her hair, to talking about where she went to school, to talking about, how much she spent on her wedding. Again, we talked about these things. They continually bring all this stuff up. And Chelsea, I gotta tell you, Chelsea has seen the brunt of the most vile attacks. From just attacking her children, from going after, now the whole thing is Chelsea Clinton, the best thing she could do is leave. Like, not talk, not run for office, not do anything. It's kind of like, okay, the future is female and the future is colored, And my thing is, if we're at a point where as a country, we are literally rejecting the idea of a PhD. Chelsea Clinton is a doctor who is a woman, who has 2 children, who is a mother, who runs a foundation that saves lives across the world. As our current presidential administration is trying to defund Meals on Wheels and school lunches, the Clinton Foundation actually funds, school lunches for some schools in this country. So why are we so worried? And the thing is, an attack on Hillary Clinton, an attack on Chelsea Clinton, is an attack on people of color and all women. The media's attacks and complicity in attacking Chelsea Clinton so viciously is an assault on those AIDS victims in Africa. 75% of the adults receiving medication for HIV and AIDS in the world receive it because of assistance from the Clinton Foundation. Now, we were told by the media that was a bad thing because Hillary Clinton was taking dirty money from Arabs in Saudi Arabia for her nefarious personal gain and pay for play, when really it was because Saudi Arabia is the essential, the gatekeeper, the gateway to Africa. You can't fly directly from the United States to Africa except maybe on 2 or 3 routes. And so, a lot of what happens is if that epidemic gets out of check in Africa, it's going to be a concern for everybody in the Western world. But the first people who are going to receive that, that spike would be Saudi Arabia. So it's in their interest to keep HIV/AIDS in check through donations to the Clinton Foundation. Now, also, not to go on harbor on this, but HIV/AIDS, it works in tandem with other diseases. So as HIV/AIDS spreads in Africa or anywhere in the world, it's weakening the immune systems and making those areas more susceptible to outbreaks like Ebola. We all remember the Ebola outbreak from just a few years ago in Liberia, and that was like a huge thing. So we really have to be mindful that when we reject the ideas and we reject these people who are building into support systems and safety nets, that we're rejecting ourselves, and we're really hurting ourselves with that. Now, I just want to do a quick recap. So we talked about how the media treated a black man in Barack Obama, how they treated Serena Williams, a black woman, and how they treated Chelsea Clinton, a white woman. And, why? Despite their relative excellence, they were receiving this particular brand of treatment. But let's look at someone else. Let's look at a white man. Bernie Sanders. Now, in 1 week, this man attacks Jon Ossoff as, I don't know if he's a progressive. Okay, so you couldn't Google Jon Ossoff's record to determine whether this person was progressive enough for you before you made this interview. You were really just throwing shade because Jon Ossoff used to work for and was endorsed by John Lewis, who is your mortal enemy for some reason, even though you claim to be the living reincarnation of Dr. Martin Luther King. But I digress. He endorses a pro-life candidate. Now, he said he would do this now. He braced us for this when he said that he was okay with Democrats taking on candidates who are not against the Second Amendment, or not against the Second Amendment, but are pro-gun and pro-life. He said it's fine if Democrats do that. We have to have a big tent. So you can compromise when it comes to women's rights, but you can't compromise on Wall Street, and you got to say Barack Obama's entire administration was a wash because, or that's the mindset from the alt-left, that Barack Obama's entire administration is tainted because, oh, he was in bed with Wall Street this whole time. It's crazy. He later backtracks and endorses Jon Ossoff, but 3 days after the polls closed in Atlanta. So it's kind of like, well, what was the point? Like, did you just deliberately set that pick? Did you deliberately not endorse Jon Ossoff so that if Jon Ossoff lost, you weren't seen as a political liability to Jon Ossoff? It just seems like you're hedging your bets. And if you really want votes from Democrats in our defunct branch of government in the House and Senate, you would shut the hell up and just vote for the Democrats. I mean, now there are some exceptions, but Jon Ossoff is clearly not in that category. So this is something that when I call him a distraction, that's what I'm talking about. Rather than just moving the ball forward, we've got somebody who's questioning every play. And it's kind of like we just need to get this stuff done. So after Johnny came lately endorsed Jon Ossoff after the election, I got to point that out. He then defends Ann Coulter, saying that Ann Coulter should have the right to speak at a college campus without fear of intimidation. But it's amazing because I remember there was a New York Times journalist, white female, who on the day that Hillary Clinton was named the presumptive nominee, she used the phrase presumptive nominee in a headline describing Hillary Clinton and received death threats from the Bernie bros. And Bernie Sanders remained silent. When Roberta Lang was doing all the stuff as the delegate or the DNC, I think chair for the state of, what was it, Nevada? Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. She received death threats. They came to her job. And Bernie Sanders, releases a written statement. Oh, obviously I don't condone death threats. And if you're doing that, and I don't want to read it wrong, but, he really just said basically, I don't condone that, but, if you're going to do it, don't tell them you're here for me. Really? Then it's like he immediately says, but you got to understand people are really mad. So he, again, when it comes to this white rage, it's excused in the media and you get a pass. It's all about creating that layer of privilege for white men that allows you to misbehave. It allows you to be a misogynist. It allows you to be vindictive. It allows you to be duplicitous. It allows you to be secretive without the media really holding you to account in the same way that it's holding someone like a Barack Obama. And Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton are used as scapegoats. How many times did we hear on Fox News about how we have to reject Hillary Clinton, whose husband's foundation received money from Saudi Arabia in exchange for this pay-for-play idea because Saudi Arabians are evil and they want to throw gays off of buildings. Now, this is the same group of people who's promoting this idea that transgender individuals need a separate bathroom, although the only times in recent history where little boys were molested and little girls were molested were by GOP stalwarts. I mean, you saw it happen all last year, but they were white men. So, we really have to watch the ball here. We can't be distracted by people like Bernie Sanders, who yesterday promised to work with Trump on trade. Now, and this is on the same day that Trump calls Justin Trudeau to tell him that he's going to impose, a 50% tariff on lumber coming into the United States. So, I don't know what that's going to do for the American lumber worker, but it's definitely going to make new home prices shoot up for all of us. And this is after he signed, on his first day in office, he signed an executive order making it harder for first-time homeowners to secure loans for their homes and making it a more expensive process. So this is the administration you voted for because you were so busy worrying about Barack Obama's well, he didn't really have any scandals, but you were worried about the wrong thing. You were worried about Hillary Clinton's emails and Clinton Foundation. You were worried about all kind of dumb shit. And sorry, excuse my language. And then, now we've left the gate open for this. So as it comes up to 2018, I want us to really be focused on making sure that we're keeping our eye on the ball and holding the media accountable. We have to be selective about the voices that we're listening to. And I invite all of you to question my logic. If you're not impressed with a particular plan of action, then by all means, I'm kidding, I'm losing those Lucy Liu lines from Kill Bill. But what I want you to do is be responsible for the messages you consume. Consider the source on all the data you take in, because ultimately, you're going to be susceptible to falling in line with things that are confirming what you want to hear as a person, things that excuse your weaknesses. That's what Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump had in common. Their pitch was to say that you're failing in this country because of Debbie Wasserman Schultz from the DNC, Barack Obama's failed policies, Wall Street, and they had all these boogeymen set up to say these are the enemies to your success. And white men and some women fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And again, because of that privilege of intersectionality, white women were able to go along with that on both sides of the aisle. Black men were able to go with it on both sides of the aisle. So, we got to be careful. We got to be careful. With that, I do want to say that it's better to kind of start focusing on particular names. And I always celebrate the resistance by talking about Maxine Waters, but I also want to recognize Adam Schiff, Cory Booker, Christian Gillibrand, Ted Lieu, Al Franken, and also Chelsea Clinton. I think these are 6 other people that we all need to be following really closely and hearing what they have to say on the issues, because you're going to get more direct information from these people than you are going to get from our media. And I trust them more than I trust CNN, which is going to put out some good reporting, and then they're going to put out some really crappy reporting in the interest of balance. But it's really not balanced. It's just pandering. So speaking of pandering, I just have to say that I am so grateful for all the support on the show. Our Friends to the Show program, which helps fund the coffee program here, really took off. And so I just want to go down the line of people who donated this week, and I want to tell you it's a very long list. And this is Arshel B. from Monrovia, Liberia. Thank you, Arshel. Mary Rose D., again, a second-time giver. Edward K., Sky N. from Nebraska. What's up, Sky? Catherine M., Regina N., Claire C., Karen I., Faye M., Elizabeth C., another repeat giver to the program, Jennifer W., Stephanie H., Erica F., Jason B., Stacy R., Joan H., Christine K., Christopher B. from Sweden, of all places. What's going on, Chris? I'm a fan, Chris. I appreciate the support. Laura V., Bianca S., again from Canada, again, second-time supporter. Actually, maybe third-time supporter. Jupiter L., aka Lola, and Veronica C. And so it's just been so overwhelming to receive all the support. Of course, I appreciate the funds that helped me. Today's set is a little bit different, and the lighting is a little bit different because of investments you've made in the program. I'm trying to constantly improve and make this better for everything. But also, I do want to remind you that what I'm looking to do here is build sort of an independent network that is not corporate funded, that does not repeat the same narrative. So donations to the program allow me to bolster what I can personally contribute to keeping the lights on, keeping the internet, keeping the camera equipment, having enough storage, having enough bandwidth, having the domains, there's a lot of expenses that go into putting this on and trying to make it professional. And one thing I do want to do is expand into other programs. So I will just say quickly, you can see the set is a little bit different and it's changing. And it's because what I've been working on doing the last couple of months is expanding the set so that I have 2 other sets. So I want a kitchen set so I can do a cooking show which teaches you how to find good, affordable produce in your community, wherever you may live, and how to then cook that into affordable family meals and how to really economize your budget. Because I just feel like with the ICE deportation force and all of the things that we're seeing, the attack on our agricultural network, we're going to see a rise in food prices. And that's going to impact all of us. And so I want us to be prepared on how to cook good meals and sort of tell the story behind different types of meals, but mainly how to economize if you happen to live in a food desert, which I I essentially live in a food desert, and so it's been my experience. It's something I want to share. That's personal. And I really know how to cook, so you should watch that. The other thing, I want to do an interview format show, but I need to have a set for that. So I've been building that, working on it nonstop, so you'll see a little bit of change behind me. Don't worry, but all of this is contributing to that greater goal, and I just appreciate it so much. If you'd like to be a friend of the show and contribute, you can do so by contributing to the link above at paypal.me/JKH2. No amount is too small, but I do appreciate the continued support. It really, really, really is encouraging, and it is going, you'll be able to see where it's going. Lastly, as always, I'd like to ask you to relax, relate, and resist. Thank you.